Hello, I hope everyone had a relaxing spring break. Today is lesson 11 of Algebra 1 with Miss Barrett. In today's lesson, we're going to go over lesson 10 practice answers. And then I'm going to discuss your first graded assignment for quarter 4, which will be posted on Google Classroom and will also be collected by Google Classroom. Okay, so lesson 10, just to refresh your memory. In lesson 10, we talked about the multiple ways you can solve quadratic functions. Okay, now level 1, the first way we talked about solving quadratic functions was determining the zeros when you're given a graph of a quadratic. Now, if we look here at this graph, this is a quadratic function. And the graph is called a parabola. Now, for this problem, we just have to look at where the x-intercepts are. Remembering that there's many names for x-intercepts. One of the names is roots, solutions, or zeros. We're going to refer to them as zeros more than likely. So here we see the x-intercepts where the parabola crosses the x-axis. And those x-intercepts are positive 3 and positive 6. Okay. They can also be written as points 3, 0, and 6, 0. So when you're given a graph, all you have to do is look and see where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Level 2 is when you're given the quadratic function in factor form or intercept form. These are the factors or the intercepts. So what you first have to do is make both of these separately equal to 0. So x plus 7 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. In order to solve for the x-intercept, you have to subtract 7 here on both sides. That's going to give us x equals negative 7. And then we have x plus 1 equals 0 here. Subtract 1 on both sides. That's going to give us x equals negative 1. So our zeros here are negative 7 and negative 1. Also can be written as negative 7, 0, because x is negative 7 and y is 0. And then negative 1, 0, because x is negative 1 and y is 0. So that's when you're given the intercept form or the factored form. Level 3 is when you have to solve when you're given a trinomial. You're given a trinomial where the a term is equal to 1. Here, this a term is equal to 1. So we have to find the factors of c, which is negative 40, that add to make b, which is 3. So whenever the a term is already 1, we just find the factors of c that add to make b. So let's write out the factors of negative 40. They are negative 1 and 40, negative 2 and 20, negative 4 and 10, negative 8 and 5, or negative 5 and 8. And then I'm going to stop there. We can also say it's 1 and negative 40, 2 and negative 20, 4 and negative 10, and 5 and negative 8. Okay. Remember, if it's a negative number, one of the two factor pairs must be negative. So now, which one of these factor pairs adds up to make positive 3? That would be negative 5 and 8. So we're going to write those out as factors. X minus 5 times x plus 8 equals 0. So now if this should look familiar, because our level 2 was just like this. This is the factored form. Now we factored this trinomial to come to our intercept form, our factored form. Now all we have to do is the same thing we did in level 2, which is make both of these equal to 0 separately. X minus 5 equals 0, and x plus 8 equals 0. Add 5 on both sides. You get x equals 5. Subtract 8 on both sides. You get x equals negative 8. Therefore, our zeros are 5 and negative 8, which can also be written as 5, 0, and negative 8, 0. Again, this is when the a term, a trinomial with the a term is already equal to 1. Now, level 4, we want to solve this. Now we have to look at it and we say, can we take out a GCF? Can we take out a GCF? In the level 3 problem where the trinomial a term was already equal to 1, we could not take out a GCF. But here, this a term is not 1. So you have to ask yourself, can I take out a GCF? A way to do that, if you cannot see it without doing this, that's fine. If you can look at these 3 terms and tell what the GCF is, then just write out the GCF. But here, if you can't do that, then you can do the factors trees. Factors of 5 are 1 and 5. That's it. The factors of 45 are 1 and 45. 9 and 5. 3 and 3. 1 and 5, okay? And then the factors of 100 are 1 and 100. We can say 20 and 5. 1 and 5. And then here is 5 and 4. And then 2 and 2. As we can see, the largest factor they have in common, or the greatest common factor, is 5. So 5 is going to be the GCF. They do not have any variables in common. So we're just going to take out the number 5. Now, when I take out that number 5, I'm going to divide every term by 5. So 5x squared divided by 5 is x squared. Negative 45x divided by 5 is negative 9x. And then 100 divided by 5 is 20 equals 0. Now, as you can see, once we took out that GCF, what we have left is a trinomial with the a term is equal to 1. Now we must find the factors of C, which is 20. So here A equals 1, B equals negative 9, C equals positive 20. We have to find the factors of 20 that add to make negative 9. Those factors are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, and that's about it. Now, it could also be -1 and -20, -2, -10, and -4 and -5. Okay, so the factors of 20 that add to make -9 are -4 and -5, because if 20 is positive, then the pairs can either be both positive or both negative. So now I'm going to write out these factor pairs as factors. So I'm not forgetting that GCF. It's going to become x minus 4, x minus 5 equals 0. Don't forget your equal 0 because we're dealing with equations here. In order to solve, this is just like level 2. Now I'm going to make my two factors, my two intercepts, equal to 0. Which is going to give us x equals 4 and x equals, so if I add 5 on both sides, x equals 5. Can also be written as 4, 0 and 5, 0. Either one of these is correct. Just depends on what form maybe I asked for. So the clue here for this level 4 was you had to find the GCF first. You had to take out the GCF first. Then you use the factoring when the A term is equal to 1. Last but not least, level 5, I want to solve. What are the solutions? So here, again, the A term is not 1. So I need to see if I can take out a GCF. I have 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. As you can see, none of these terms have a GCF, a number or a variable. So I must use the grouping method. When you cannot take out a GCF and you cannot make the A term 1, you must use the grouping method. Okay, so the grouping method says find the factors of A times C that add to make B. So A times C here is 2 times 2, which is 4. So let's find out the factors of 4. 1 and 4, 2 and 2. It could also be -1 and -4, and -2 and -2. So which factor pair add to make 5? That would be 4 and 1. So now with the grouping method, I'm going to take this 5 and I'm going to split this 5 into 4x plus 1x, because 5x is 4x plus 1x, or 4x plus 1x equals 5x. And then I'm going to bring down my first term and my last term equals 0. All I did here was I broke up that 5x into 4x plus 1x, because 4x plus 1x is 5x. So then now I have to then group my 4-term polynomial into pairs. So I have 2x squared plus 4x, and I have 1x plus 2. And for each of these two groups, I have to now take out a GCF. So what's the greatest common factor of 2x squared plus 4x? That would be 2x, because 2 and 4 have a greatest common factor of 2. And then x squared and x have a greatest common factor of x. So when I divide both of these terms by 2x, I get x, because 2x squared divided by 2x is x, plus 2x divided by 4x is just 2. So that's my GCF, 2x, and what's left is x plus 2. For this second one, I have 1x plus 2. My GCF is going to be 1. They do not have a variable in common. So when I divide both of these by 1, I get x plus 2. Now I must write out these as two factors. So I take my two GCFs and I put them together. I'm going to do it over here. 2x plus 1. Those are my two GCFs. They go together. And then I'm going to take this x plus 2, since it's the same, it's considered one factor. X plus 2 equals 0. Okay, so I did my grouping. I took out my GCF in each group. I wrote out my two GCFs as one factor, and my what's left, I'll call it, which are the same as another factor. Now, in order to solve it, I'm going to make them both equal to 0. 2x plus 1 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. In order to solve for x, subtract 1 on both sides. That's going to give me 2x equals -1, and divide by 2 on both sides. X equals -1/2. And then on this side, I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. That's going to give me x equals -2. Therefore, my zeros are -1/2 and -2. Also can be written as -1/2, 0, and -2, 0. Okay, so let's just look at these answers again. I hope that when you were doing your practice, you understood how to do these based off of the videos and the practice, the notes that we did. Okay. Specifically, I want to make sure that you understood level 3, where you have a trinomial where a is equal to 1. Level 4, where you have a trinomial where you can take out the GCF, and then you use the method when the trinomial a term is equal to 1. And then last but not least, when you cannot take out a GCF, you must use the grouping method when you cannot make the a term equal to 1. For your quiz, this is what your quiz will look like. Now, your quiz assignment is going to be in Google Classroom. It's going to be in Google Classroom. For this assignment, you should print out the document. And then when you want to submit, do your work, show all of your work. If you see the directions, it says for each of the following trinomials, use the appropriate factoring method to solve the trinomial. Show all of your work for full credit. You can use any notes and any videos that we've done so far. Make sure to show all of your work. Now, once you print it out and you complete the assignment, which is due Wednesday, once you print it out and complete the assignment, then you have options. You can scan it. If you have an iPhone, you can scan it using your Notes app. Once you go to Notes, you're going to click the picture, the camera icon, and then it's going to say Scan Documents. You take the picture, and it allows you to fit the document to all the corners of the page, and then you can save it as a PDF and then upload it to Google Classroom in the assignment section where I assigned the quiz. Another option is that you can take a picture of it and then also upload it to the assignment. If you have any questions or concerns about the actual assignment or about how to submit it, please do not hesitate to contact me via Google Classroom or email. Bye.